Reflections on our visit to some of the World War I battlefields in France. A nearly empty ferry. A 2-hour weather delay has been matched by us being 2 hours early, so we're still on time. The chop reduces as we cross the channel, and we are soon on the coastal road with a sat-nav that is locked up. Gun emplacements are still dotted all around, along with numerous religious shrines.
The first cemetery we visit is that at Etaples. As a stretcher bearer with the Royal Army Medical Corps, my grandfather, Henry Smith, was at one stage posted to Etaples, dealing with a terrible toll of casualties. We arrive at Au Coq Bleu, where we have the Sarcelle suite, in English the teal duck, behind the windows with the open shutters. I have spent time finishing the last of the felt poppies I have made to place on the graves, and as the other guests return from a day out, we enjoy a gourmet meal cooked by Francis Ducoq, our host.
The house stands on the river Lothie, and we will follow it inland to get to the battlefields we are visiting today. The memorial to the men of the Canadian Newfoundland Regiment. Some of the trenches remain to give an idea of the living conditions, although the wet and the mud the men lived through can never possibly be portrayed today. 100 years on, there are new trees to replace complete forests totally destroyed during the war, both by the need to have fires for warmth and cooking and through the destruction by the sheer mass of shelling that took place on both sides.
Before the poppy became the symbol of remembrance, Newfoundlanders wore a sprig of forget-me-not flowers on 1st July each year. 1st July 1916 being the bloodiest day of battle undertaken by the Newfoundlanders. 801 soldiers went over the top. The next day only 69 were present at roll call. This is one of 5 caribou that stand watch over battlefield monuments where Canadians saw action in France and Belgium.
A short drive away is the Ulster Memorial. The Newfoundland front line can be seen in the forest on the crest of the hill. On the 1st of July 1916, the start of the Battle of the Somme, Ulstermen fought forward from here, advancing nearly a mile and almost reaching the German field guns. Regrettably, due to the difficulty of supplying the men ammunition, equipment, food and water, they had to fall back under continuous German counterattack. By the end of the day, the unit had suffered 4,900 casualties.
The Thiepval Monument to the Lost Dead of the Battle of the Somme. There are 72,194 names engraved upon the walls of the building. These are the men of the British and South African forces who died in the Somme battle sector and who have no known grave.
The Delville Wood Memorial is dedicated to the South African forces who fought in this salient. Often referred to as Devilwood, they lost 92 officers and 2,281 men in 6 days of fierce fighting. They steadfastly endured the German bombardment, which seldom slackened and never ceased, and had faced with great courage and resolution repeated counterattacks delivered by fresh German troops. For many hundreds of soldiers, this wood remains their final resting place, as the forest was replanted over where they had fallen in the war. This panel commemorates the Six-Day Battle from 14 to 20th of July 1916. We visit Kent Road Cemetery on behalf of Catherine McGeehan, born Box, a long-time family friend, and her sisters. Herein lies an uncle, 46154, Lance Corporal Thomas Harry Box, who fell on 4th of May 1917. In recognition of a brave man among many brave men, in remembrance, respectfully, your nieces.
We returned to Lothie under threatening skies and the promise of overnight storms. A sombre but successful day. A leisure day. First, a visit to a harbour.
We are actually parked on a tarmacked car park as we view the damage a week of storms and high winds has wreaked in Fort Mahon Plage. Trailer after trailer of sand is returned to the beach from the centre of town.
A brave soul endures the wind-driven sand. Others with land yachts revel in it.
We return in the evening for a beach supper. The heavens opened, forcing us to eat in the car, with a late constellation rainbow and a cloudy sunset.
We see this ruin and make our way towards it. It is the remains of the monastery of Mont d'Allois. On the way to the ruin, we stop to investigate this gathering and are invited to join a memorial ceremony and given Bleuets de France, their equivalent of the poppy. We know it as the cornflower. Like the poppy, cornflowers continue to grow in land devastated by the thousands of shells which were launched daily by the entrenched armies on the Western Front. These flowers were often the only visible evidence of life and the only sign of colour in the mud of the trenches.
The 3 schools from the local villages are remembering the dead, and in particular honouring Kenneth Weeks, an American who lived in France and so loved the country that on the day war broke out he joined the Foreign Legion.
Weeks is buried in the village cemetery, and during a ceremony at the graveside, I plant one of my felt poppies.
From Weeks's grave we move to the military cemetery and are pictured with the Mayor of Equivris, Hervé Bridoux. Michael and Maureen Searle. He is a retired commissioner for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and they have chosen to live in France following his appointment to Picardy for many years. They gave a talk on war events relating to the creation of this cemetery. Thankfully, Maureen translated for us. Our French is non-existent. With the shadows lengthening and with quite a bit of ground to cover, we made our departure. Vimy Ridge, site of major battles involving Canadian forces. Here, so much lies untouched that huge areas are still barred to the public because of the danger posed by unknown amounts of still buried, unexploded ammunition and howitzer shells. From Vimy Ridge, we head north to Armentières and the Y Farm Cemetery.
15 British soldiers who died in World War I are being buried with honours today, exactly 100 years after they were killed in battle. They'll be laid to rest at a Commonwealth War Graves cemetery in northern France after their bodies were identified with the use of DNA. Robert Hall reports now from the Y Farm Cemetery, where the ceremony will take place this morning.
In the autumn sunshine, comrades from a northern regiment lie together, as they have done since war swept across this farmland in 1914. These were the days before trenches, when Allied armies tried to halt the German advance. The days when men from Yorkshire and Lancashire confronted a more powerful enemy and paid the price. Their regimental diaries record nearly 130 casualties. In the ensuing chaos, many soldiers simply disappeared.
They came up against very heavy machine gun and shrapnel fire, which had devastating results. They tried to advance several times, but they were beaten back. And really, that was a foretaste of what would then happen over the next few weeks in what became the First Battle of Ypres.
15 men fell just outside the village of Beaumont-hamel, and there they would have remained were it not for a chance discovery by workmen laying new drainage. 11 were identified, names for the headstones being created by the Commonwealth War Graves team in Arras, personal stories to fill the gaps in family histories.
At Y Farm, we pay our respects at the graves of the 15 soldiers whose bodies lay undiscovered for nearly 100 years. Time to head for Belgium and our overnight hotel.
Tread softly here, go reverently and slow. Yea, let your soul go down upon its knees, and with bowed head and heart abased, strive hard to grasp the future gain in this sore loss. For not 1 foot of this dank sod, but drunk at surfeit of the blood of gallant men, who for their faith, their hope, for life and liberty, have made the sacrifice, here gave their lives, and gave right willingly for you and me. From this vast altar pile the souls of men sped up to God in countless multitudes. On this grim cratered ridge they gave their all, and, giving, won the peace of heaven and immortality. Our hearts go out to them in boundless gratitude, if ours, then God's, for his vast charity. All sees, all knows, all comprehends, save bounds. He has repaid the sacrifice, and we, God help us if we fail to pay our debt, in fullest full and all unstintingly. John Oxenham.